Imagine growing up hearing, "You're different. Rules aren't made for you." And then, one ordinary morning, you meet someone who doesn't care who your father is, how many followers you have, or what school fund your last charity gala paid for. He cares only about what you did. The courtroom in Providence is not glamorous. Fluorescent lights, worn benches, that quiet murmur of people waiting to hear what their future costs. Then the clerk calls it Case 4021, Olivia Carter. She walks in like it's a stage entrance. 24. Perfect hair, tailored blazer, phone in hand. She's not nervous. She's irritated. Her heels click like she's late for something more important than this. Before the judge even says her name, she's already holding the phone low at her side, recording. Whispering into the mic, "Okay, guys, I'm literally in court right now because, apparently, parking is now a crime. Stay tuned." Judge Caprio looks up over his glasses. "Miss Carter," he says evenly, "you're charged with parking in a space reserved for disabled access. This isn't a ticket for an expired meter. It's a civil rights violation." Olivia gives a small laugh. "Civil rights? With respect, Your Honor, I was there for, what, 3 minutes? I just ran in for coffee. No one was even using that spot." He doesn't smile back. "And who decided no one needed it?" he asks. She tilts her head. "I mean, I looked. Nobody was there." "You looked?" His tone stays calm, but the air in the room changes. "Miss Carter, that space is not for when someone is there. It's for when someone needs to be there the moment they arrive." There's a low shift in the gallery. People stop whispering. She rolls her eyes, just a little. "Your Honor, I understand the drama, but I think we're exaggerating. I didn't hurt anybody. Let's not turn a parking spot into a federal case." He glances at the file. "This is not your first violation. It is your third. Same infraction. Same location." Her jaw tightens, just for a second. Then she tries a different lever. "I think there's some context you should have. My father is Senator Carter. I work with his community team. We've raised money for accessibility programs across the state. I'm not some selfish person who doesn't care." "Your father is Senator Carter," he repeats, like he's confirming a spelling, not accepting a credential. "Yes, I'm aware." A hint of pride flashes in her eyes. Then he says, almost conversationally, "Senator Carter co-sponsored the state access compliance bill last year, didn't he? The one that increased penalties for obstructing mobility access to public spaces." Olivia hesitates. "Yes," she says quietly. "That's his bill." "So," the judge continues, still calm, "the man who pushed to protect disabled access across this state is your father. And you parked your car across a ramp built for a wheelchair, went to get coffee, and filmed yourself laughing about the ticket. Do I have that right?" You can feel the room freeze. Her confidence cracks, just a hair. "Your Honor, I think this is getting a little personal." "It is personal," he says softly. "To the person who couldn't get out of their van because you decided you were in a hurry. It's very personal to them." For the first time, she doesn't answer immediately. The judge folds his hands. "Miss Carter, listen carefully. We are not here because of a parking ticket. We are here because you think the world is an audience, and you are the show." Her jaw tightens. He leans in, voice low, not angry. Worse than angry. Disappointed. "In this courtroom," he says, "you're not the show. You are the one who's about to learn." The courtroom was quiet after Judge Caprio's words, the kind of silence that presses on your skin. Olivia Carter stood motionless, her phone now face down on the table, its camera finally off. "Tell me something, Miss Carter," the judge said after a pause. What do you do, exactly? She straightened her shoulders, finding her tone again. I work in public relations. I manage my father's image, his community outreach, social campaigns, the good press that keeps his name strong. Caprio tilted his head slightly. So, you shape how the world sees him? Yes, she said, her voice steady. It's important for people to believe in leadership, to see integrity, generosity, empathy. He interrupted quietly. And when was the last time you saw any of those qualities in yourself? A flicker of discomfort crossed her face. Excuse me? The judge leaned forward. You speak about empathy as if it were a product to advertise. But what you did outside that cafe, that was not empathy, Miss Carter. That was entitlement. A faint laugh escaped her. You don't understand how my life works. Every day, cameras follow us. One mistake, one wrong word. It becomes a headline. I can't afford to look weak or ordinary. Ordinary, he repeated, almost softly. Do you think decency makes you look ordinary? She hesitated, glancing around as if for help. No one met her eyes. I'm not saying that, she murmured. My father expects. Your father expects what? Caprio pressed gently. Her shoulders dropped slightly. Perfection, she whispered. He expects me to always be composed, always useful, always controllable. The judge's voice lowered. And so you control others instead. She blinked. That's not fair. He didn't argue. He simply opened her file again. You were 9 when your mother passed away. Your father was already in Congress. That must have been difficult. Her composure faltered. It was, she said quietly. He didn't handle it well. He just threw himself into work, speeches, campaigns. I grew up in hotels and studios. Everything we did had to look good. That's all I ever learned. Caprio nodded slowly. And yet, somewhere along the way, you mistook visibility for value. Olivia frowned. You think I don't care about people? I think you've spent so long performing care that you forgot what it feels like. She looked down, her voice small. That's cruel. It's honest, he said. And honesty is what this room runs on. There was a pause. You could hear the air conditioning hum. He continued, softer now. Your father fought for disability access laws, real ones, that changed lives. Do you know what it means for him to see his own daughter mocking that cause in a viral clip? Olivia's throat tightened. You've seen it? The internet has, he said dryly. And I imagine he has too. Her voice wavered. He hasn't called me. Caprio nodded. Maybe because he doesn't know whether to defend you or apologize for you. That landed like a stone. He didn't push further. Instead, he folded his hands. You say your family lives under pressure. I believe that. But power without responsibility isn't strength. It's vanity. She looked up, meeting his gaze for the first time. So what now? You want to make me a public example? He shook his head. No, Miss Carter. I want you to understand something your father clearly tried to teach the world but forgot to teach you. That law is not about punishment. It's about respect. She blinked, uncertain whether it was accusation or mercy. He leaned back in his chair. You're not here because of your father's reputation. You're here because you've been living on it. And someday, that credit runs out. Her lips parted as if to respond, but nothing came out. Think carefully, he said finally, because what happens next will decide whether you leave this room with a fine or with a conscience. The words hung there, calm but final. And for the first time, Olivia Carter, daughter of a senator, master of image, couldn't think of a single line to say. The next morning, the courtroom was quieter than usual. Sunlight filtered through the blinds, striping the wooden floor in pale gold. Olivia Carter sat at the defendant's table, no phone this time, hands clasped tight, knuckles pale. Judge Caprio entered, carrying a thin folder. "Miss Carter," he began, "before we continue, I want you to hear something." Her eyes lifted, cautious. He pressed play on a small speaker. The sound was sharp, real. A body camera recording from the officer who wrote her ticket. "Officer. Ma'am, this is a restricted space." Olivia, laughing. "Do you even know who I am?" Officer. "That doesn't matter." Olivia. "It will when you lose your job. My father doesn't tolerate small people wasting his time." The recording ended. Silence stretched. Caprio's gaze stayed steady. "Do you deny saying that?" Her throat tightened. I was angry. I didn't mean it." "Maybe not," he said quietly. "But you meant every word of what you believe. That rules bend for you." Olivia looked down, her voice low. "It was a stupid moment." "No," he said. "It was an honest one." The courtroom seemed to shrink around her. Then Caprio added, "That officer, his name is Daniel Foster, 20 years on the force. He sent me a letter after filing your report." He unfolded a piece of paper and began reading. "I'm not angry at Miss Carter. I just hope one day she learns what her father spent his life preaching, that respect for others is the only real measure of character." The judge paused. He didn't ask for punishment. He asked for understanding. Olivia's eyes flickered. Shame, confusion, something deeper. "He wrote that?" "Yes," Caprio said, while his own daughter was in the hospital that week. He worked that shift anyway, because he said someone had to make sure the law still meant something. Her composure cracked. "I didn't know." He leaned forward, voice softer now. "You never asked." The words hit her harder than any accusation. She started, but couldn't finish. Her voice broke on the word. Caprio let the silence linger. Then, quietly, "Miss Carter, I've seen arrogance before, but arrogance built on loneliness. That's different. That's repairable." She blinked fast. "Loneliness?" He nodded. "When you live in a world where everyone pretends you're right, you forget how to listen. You stop seeing people as people. They become props, obstacles, or votes. And one day, you look around and realize you've built a palace with no doors." Her eyes glistened. "So, what? You're saying I'm broken?" "No," he said. "I'm saying you're unfinished." That line hung between them. Then Caprio's tone hardened again. "You called the law a joke. You mocked an officer doing his duty. Tell me, Miss Carter, what exactly do you think justice is?" Olivia swallowed hard. "I don't know anymore." "That's a start," he said. "Ignorance is forgivable. Indifference isn't." He closed the file. "So here's what's going to happen. You'll come back tomorrow. I want you to hear something. Not from me, not from your father, but from someone who knows exactly what your 3 minutes cost." Her brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" "You'll see," Caprio said, standing. "Court adjourned until 10 a.m. She rose from her seat, unsure if she'd just been spared or sentenced. The officer by the door opened it for her. The same man from the recording, Daniel Foster. Their eyes met briefly. He nodded once, without anger, just quiet understanding. And in that fleeting glance, Olivia felt something she hadn't felt in years, the sting of respect she hadn't earned. As she stepped out into the hallway, her reflection flickered in the glass door. The same face, but something behind it was starting, just barely, to change. The next day, Olivia arrived early. No makeup, no phone, no mask of composure. For once, she wasn't performing. She sat alone, fingers tracing the wood grain of the bench, waiting. Judge Caprio entered quietly. "Miss Carter," he began, "today won't be like yesterday. I asked you to come because there's someone you need to meet." The side door opened. A woman in a wheelchair was rolled in by a nurse. Her hair was silver, her movements careful but steady. "This," said Caprio, "is Mrs. Helen Ruiz. 2 years ago, she was injured in a parking lot when a driver blocked the only ramp to the pharmacy entrance. She fell trying to navigate the curb." Olivia's eyes widened. I didn't know." "No," said the judge. "You didn't. But today, you will listen." Mrs. Ruiz's voice was calm, almost gentle. "You remind me of the girl who parked there that day. She was in a hurry, too. I was just trying to pick up my heart medication. I remember the look on her face when I fell. Shocked, but not sorry. Maybe she didn't think about it afterward, but I did. Every single day." Olivia's breath caught. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone." Mrs. Ruiz gave a sad smile. "That's what everyone says, after it happens." The judge folded his hands. "This is what your 3 minutes look like when time stops for someone else." Olivia's voice shook. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because remorse without truth is theater," Caprio said, "and you've lived in theater long enough." The courtroom was utterly silent, except for the faint hum of the air conditioner. Mrs. Ruiz looked at her kindly. "Do you know what's harder than being in this chair, dear? Watching people pretend I'm invisible? That hurts more than any fall." Olivia's eyes filled. "I'm sorry," she whispered, but it sounded too small for the room. Caprio leaned forward. "Sorry is a word. Change is a sentence. Which one are you going to choose?" Olivia wiped her eyes. "What can I possibly do to fix this?" The judge spoke evenly. "You can't fix the past, but you can stop repeating it. So here's what will happen. You'll spend 2 days volunteering at the rehabilitation center where Mrs. Ruiz goes for therapy. No assistants, no cameras, no headlines, just you and reality." Her face paled. "Me? There? I don't know how to—" "That's precisely the point," Caprio said. "You've lived a life of knowing too much about appearances and too little about people." She hesitated, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if I can't handle it?" "Then you'll learn humility," he replied. "And that's more valuable than any degree your father's name could buy." Mrs. Ruiz reached out a trembling hand. Olivia took it, unsure, surprised by how small and warm it felt. "You'll be fine," the older woman said softly. "Just don't look down on anyone, unless it's to help them up." Tears broke through Olivia's composure. She nodded silently. Caprio watched, his expression unreadable, but softer now. "You wanted the world to see you," he said. "Now, you're going to see the world." Olivia swallowed hard. "When do I start?" "Tomorrow morning," he said. "Report to the Hope Rehabilitation Center at 9. Dress comfortably, not for the cameras, but for honesty." She nodded again, still holding Mrs. Ruiz's hand. As the bailiff escorted them out, Caprio looked down at the bench where Olivia had stood. For the first time since the trial began, he didn't see arrogance there. He saw a beginning. And in the quiet that followed, he whispered, half to himself, half to the memory of a lesson too many forget. Some people learn through punishment, others through pain. But the rare ones, they learn through awakening. The next morning, rain glazed the city in silver. Olivia Carter stood outside the Hope Rehabilitation Center, clutching a borrowed umbrella. Her designer shoes soaked through the puddles, but she didn't turn back. A volunteer badge hung loosely around her neck. O. Carter, printed in plain black ink. No titles, no lineage, just a name. Inside, the air smelled faintly of antiseptic and coffee. A nurse handed her gloves and a clipboard. "You're assigned to Ward B," she said briskly. "Physical therapy. Start with Mr. Benson, room 4. Olivia nodded, her voice small. I've never done this before." The nurse smiled. "No one has, until they do." Room 4 was bright, lined with machines that hissed and whirred softly. A man in his 60s sat by the window, one leg replaced by a metal prosthetic. He was polishing it carefully, humming under his breath. "You must be the senator's kid," he said without looking up. "We don't get many celebrities here." Olivia froze. "I'm just here to help," he chuckled. "Then help me tighten this strap." She hesitated before kneeling beside him, fumbling with the leather. Her hands shook. "Not used to this kind of work?" he asked, not unkindly. "I'm used to other kinds," she admitted. "Yeah," he said, glancing at her. "The kind where hands stay clean." She met his gaze, not angry, but steady. "I'm trying." He nodded. "Then keep trying. You'll get there." As the day went on, Olivia wheeled patients to therapy rooms, fetched towels, adjusted blankets. Her arms ached, her shoes squeaked, but something unfamiliar stirred inside. Not exhaustion, but presence. At one point, a little girl in a wheelchair waved at her from across the hall. "You dropped your phone," the girl said. Olivia smiled faintly. "I didn't bring one today." The child tilted her head. "Good. Phones make people forget where they are." The words landed with quiet force. Later, during lunch, Olivia sat with Mrs. Ruiz. The older woman ate slowly, her hands trembling slightly. "So," she asked, "still think it's all a joke?" Olivia shook her head. "No, it's heavier than I thought. Every person here carries a story, and all I ever carried was excuses." Mrs. Ruiz smiled. "Then maybe it's time you start carrying something real." That afternoon, Olivia helped a boy named Nate learn to stand on new braces. His legs trembled with each attempt. "It hurts," he whispered. "I know," she said softly. "But pain isn't the end. Sometimes it's just proof you're still fighting." When he finally took one unsteady step, he grinned up at her. "You're not bad at this," he said. She laughed. Not the polished, rehearsed sound she used in interviews, but something genuine, almost surprised. By evening, her clothes were wrinkled, her hair damp with sweat. Yet when she looked in the mirror near the exit, she didn't see fatigue. She saw something closer to relief. The nurse from the morning approached. "You're back tomorrow, right?" Olivia nodded. "Yes. I want to finish what I started." Outside, the rain had stopped. The pavement shimmered under the streetlights. She stood there for a moment, breathing in the clean air, then pulled out a folded note from her pocket. A line Judge Caprio had written before she left. "Service is not punishment. It's restoration." She read it twice, then tucked it away. For the first time in years, Olivia Carter, daughter of a senator, architect of image, didn't feel like someone being watched. She felt seen. And somewhere in that quiet, without applause or cameras, the lesson began to take root. Not every kind of power is meant to be inherited. Some must be earned. One act of humility at a time. A week later, the courtroom felt different. The same wooden benches, the same faint hum of the ceiling fan, yet the air carried something gentler, almost expectant. Olivia Carter entered quietly. No entourage, no bright colors, no defiance. Just a simple blouse and steady eyes. Judge Caprio looked up from his papers. "Miss Carter," he said, You've completed your volunteer service? Yes, Your Honor, she replied. 3 days at Hope Rehabilitation Center. Though it felt like more than that. He leaned forward. How so? Olivia took a breath. Because every hour there, I met someone who reminded me what I've ignored all my life. People who wake up in pain, but still smile. People who don't ask for help. They give it. The judge watched her closely. And what did you give, Miss Carter? Her voice wavered, but she didn't look away. Time, attention, and for once, myself, without the mask, without my last name. He nodded slowly. That's worth more than any fine I could impose. Then she reached into her bag and placed an envelope on the table. This isn't for the court, she said softly. It's for the center. I sold some things I didn't need. Designer clothes, handbags. I wanted to fund an accessibility ramp in Mrs. Ruiz's name. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Judge Caprio took the envelope, weighing it in his hand. Mrs. Ruiz will appreciate this, he said. But you understand, money isn't absolution. Olivia smiled faintly. I know. It's just gratitude. For the lesson. He studied her for a long moment before speaking. I remember the girl who stood here last week, laughing, dismissive, certain that laws were toys for the powerful. That girl would have tried to buy her way out. But the woman standing here today. He paused. She finally understands that the law isn't a wall. It's a mirror. Olivia's throat tightened. It showed me more than I wanted to see. Good, he said simply. The truth always does. From the back of the room, a familiar voice spoke. She's telling the truth, Frank. Everyone turned. Senator Carter stood near the doorway, hands clasped, his eyes glossy with pride he couldn't quite hide. I didn't come here to intervene, he said. I came to listen. Judge Caprio gestured for him to step closer. Then, tell her what you think. The senator faced his daughter. For years, I thought protecting you meant sheltering you. Turns out, I was only keeping you from seeing what matters. Olivia blinked back tears. You weren't wrong to want that. I was wrong to believe comfort was love. He reached out, hesitated, then rested a hand on her shoulder. I'm proud of you, Liv. Not for your name, for your change. The judge smiled. I think that's the only verdict that matters. He raised his gavel but didn't strike it. Miss Carter, I'm dismissing the fine. You've paid a greater price. Awareness. But the court asks one last thing. Stay with the center as a volunteer for the next month. Not because you must, because you can. She nodded, tears spilling freely now. I will. I promise. As she turned to leave, the senator whispered, Your mother would have loved that answer. At the door, she paused, glancing back toward the bench. Thank you, Judge Caprio. You didn't punish me. You reminded me how to be a person. He replied gently, That's all the law should ever do. Outside, the spring sun broke through the clouds, painting the courthouse steps in gold. Reporters waited, but for once, Olivia didn't look for cameras. She looked up. Days later, the local news ran a small headline. Senator's daughter launches No Excuses campaign to protect disabled parking rights. In the closing audio of the story, Judge Caprio's voice was heard, calm and resolute. Justice isn't about how much you can pay. It's about what you're willing to become. And for the first time, Olivia Carter's name wasn't followed by her father's title, only by a quiet truth she had finally earned on her own.